would not have a claim to the dollhouse. It has totally, completely nothing to do with what you do every day. But if you're, and this is where it gets blurry, and it's why it becomes important. Most of the time, people are hired for their personal brand because they're in the advertising or marketing fields, and that's what they're known for. And when they're creating something on the side, it has some relation to what they were hired for. Now, who owns what? Because the default is your employer owns what you create, whether it's on company time or at home, if it falls within the scope of your employment. So that's what that is. So if Jane is tweeting for Fat Cat on company time and for the company, maybe she's mixing some things about her company, and in the and she's also talking about how she, got a pizza for lunch that day. Even though they're mixed together, because a lot of what she's created is on company time or referring to Fat Cat, who owns that? Probably the company. All right, so think about what you own as a personal brand. What are your trademarks? Jane Brand is a trademark. The phrases she uses can be a trademark. And almost anything that we talked about that can identify Jane as the source for something can be a trademark. You can have smells be a trademark, like a trademark perfume that everyone knows is, whatever specific scent. All right, so we covered this with the Sigrid Olsen thing. After she leaves, does she still own her trademarks? The answer is read the contract. If you know what your brand is worth and you come in, you would never sign that non-compete. You would say, all right, you get to own me for 2 years, but when I'm done, I'm not signing any non-compete. I want to be able to keep selling whatever it is I'm selling for myself. All right, so this is a big thing in our firm. It's this Twitter username and how people are stealing other people's names to Twitter from, and they call it a parody or they just use it for fun. That can be actionable as trademark infringement. If you're known to be in this, there's a New York restaurant critic who's known, what was her name, Restaurant Girl? And some guy created a Twitter account and basically pretended to be her and made up all these stupid, sarcastic comments as Restaurant Girl. And so she's suing. Well, is she sued yet? I think she's getting her lawyer, whatever. She's getting her lawyers, and that's the issue. My name as a restaurant critic is becoming well known to the point that it's like a Siskel and Ebert thumbs up, thumbs down. You can't create a Twitter username with my words. And then this is something this is all uncharted territory because people don't really know how to handle Twitter in the business context. But I hire you for your 4,000 member follower account, and you leave. I want to still be able to access that 4,000 people account. Maybe by hiring you, I can claim rights to that too, and you're going to have to start from scratch and create a whole new Twitter account and following. Because it's most businesses are using it like customer lists. They're using it to get to 4,000 people at a time in a less overt way. But if you leave, they shouldn't have to lose that. That's the reason they paid you lots of money to hire you. Yeah.
Can they bring you on and then fire you just to get the account, or just to get the names?
Can they bring you on and fire you? Well, they don't need to fire you. They can just say, when you come on, we're taking the names. It doesn't have to be contingent on you working there. It's just, we hired you, and that's part of the deal. Because once you leave, you don't get your stuff back. Whatever you've created, we have a case example, don't we? Should I not? Yeah, we're gonna get to that. All right, so again, contracts. That's where everything. Yes, you seem confused.
No, I haven't. This is like really bad news for me. Because I'm a book publicist, so on Facebook I use my personal Facebook, and I created a fan page, so that belongs to the company. But I've built a really close relationship with a lot of my authors. They're my friends too. They're my friends, so they're going to be my friends after I leave where I'm at now. So what do I have to how would I? But that's and my brand is my name, my real name. Right. Same thing with my Twitter, and I Twitter for my company, but because they're not savvy enough. I'm trying to get them to do an official one, but it's better for me to do it.
Right. And if they're not savvy, they probably don't even know they can put their pause into that.
They're just not.
But it's going to come up because that's how people. It's the new way of advertising. No one's watching TV anymore. They're on their computers at midnight, on TweetDeck, retweeting and whatever they're doing. So if they're hiring you for that purpose, because they know you're social media savvy, you know how to get to book publishers in a non-traditional way. You need to make it clear. Hey, listen, I'm going to do this. I'm doing you a favor. I'm lending you my personal brand. In fact, you should pay me more money for me allowing you to enter my space to promote your work. Otherwise,
that would protect her from companies saying that you're creating it.
Right. Great. And then there's the argument that you can't copyright a tweet anyway. And so I don't think people care really about the content of the tweet so much as they care about the account's existence itself. So what can they claim rights to, what can't they? If it pre-existed, can you extract from that just the stuff you did for work and what you didn't? So it gets messy and there's zero case law on it because everyone's still playing with Twitter. They don't know. Yeah.
So can you set up a contract for your employer to sign then?
Yeah.
And is that what a lot of people do too?
Yeah, and that's why people don't know about this because it's like this new concept, but it does apply to everything else. Whether it's not Twitter, maybe you're writing something. Maybe before this Twitter thing, you had a blog on your own time and you made advertising dollars on that blog. Should you get to keep that money because your blog talks about work? I mean, what's the delineation? So how can you get around this? Well, in the absence of an employment context, if you're an independent contractor hired by the company, the default's the opposite. The independent contractor owns whatever they create unless the business has a work-for-hire agreement. So in the employment context, if you're W-2, employer owns automatically. If you're an independent contractor, you own automatically. It's a tax thing. So a lot of people try to hire independent contractors and not employees. But in the tax time comes around and you get audited and they say, hey, your independent contractors happen to have to come from 9 to 5 every day. They come to your offices and you tell them what to do and you tell them and you direct what they do. Then calling a duck, whatever, a different animal doesn't change it from a duck. So these are all, as a whole, these things go to show that you're an independent contractor versus a employee. All right, so again, I mean, there's going to be a lot of repetition, but I don't think that hurts you. It'd be great when you leave. So this is the other thing, non-competes. The IP stuff is default. You can't really do anything about it unless you're proactive. Non-competes is the same thing. Type of work, we said she couldn't make women's apparel fashions for several years after she was given the boot. Time limit, that goes to your question about what can non-competes be. They need to be reasonable. Saying she could never make women's clothing ever would be unreasonable. 2 years is usually okay. Location, you can talk about geographic scope. If someone says you can't sell anywhere in the world, you can argue that it's too broad and therefore the contract shouldn't even apply. And that's the popular thing is to say, oh, non-competes are never enforceable. And that's what people tell me all the time, and I'm like, that's not true because they've become, over years, so specific and drafted so carefully that they're actually very enforceable. And if anyone's in the sales business, I get calls almost every other day by one company who's stolen someone else's sales rep and they're getting a call that says, don't steal my sales rep and all my sales customers lists. So it happens a lot. And then, if they have a solid non-compete agreement, I'm like, you better watch out because they're going to sue you and they're going to sue the company you work for. All right, so let's talk about that dollhouse that you're making on the side. Does Fat Cat own Jane's side projects? So you have to ask yourself, is the work that she's doing at home similar to the work that she was hired to do? Can she draw a line between personal time and company time? If she's hired to tweet, like we talked about, then Fat Cat can't claim ownership in the bowls she made in pottery class. So I'm just trying to come up with extreme examples of what's yes and what is not. Do side projects infringe on work I do for Fat Cat? And the answer is yes. Now listen, the reason I bring that up is because of that copyright issue. Let's say you're a graphic designer. All right, and you come up with this really great, and you're an employee of your company.
Not now.
Well, let's pretend you're an employee of your company. And you create all this stuff for them. Have you ever been an employee of a company?
Yeah.
Okay, and were you asked to design stuff for them? And when you left that company, did you create new things based off of what you had at that old company?
Not based on the old stuff.
Okay. If you did, or you said I have a portfolio, or here's my portfolio, this stuff is mine, you better, if they wanted to, the company could say that stuff is not yours. It may be something you worked on at my company, but you don't own the copyright to the stuff that you created. So if I generate a really cool graphic at work, and I'm like, this could be a great basis for a t-shirt line, even though the graphic at work is for, I don't know, cars. And you're like, this is a cool design for the car, but I think I can make it into t-shirts. You can't, even though you did it, and if you did it completely by yourself at work, the company owns it. So yes, it's possible to infringe yourself, if that kind of makes, that's why I have that sentence in there.
But you can still take that stuff just for your portfolio or something else
If you get
non-money
permission.
generating.
Not really.
So then why would you go to a company that you can't keep your own work for? Because if you get fired, you can't use that work.
Because
What's
they
that
pay you
word?
money.
Yeah, but.
Well, that's really it. I mean, they
Yeah.
pay you enough, and you are willing to sell your soul for the right amount of money, basically. I mean, that's pretty dramatic, but that's something you need to be aware of when you start the job.